What are we talking about again?
Longevity.
The longevity. Okay, and now we're on the Sir Flashman side.
Well, my father's grandfather, Elias Hartstone, lived to be 94. His paternal grandmother, Rose Flashman, lived to be 98. And I don't believe it. Because they used to count differently
Oh,
on
funny.
the Jewish calendar.
Uh-huh.
The Jewish calendar is shorter.
Oh, okay.
So the way they have it, she would have been about like in her 50s when she had her youngest child.
Okay.
So I think I was exaggerating.
Okay.
And on the Shapiro side, well, my grandfather Shapiro lived to be 94. And his mother lived to be 87, Sarah Shapiro. And that's it for longevity.
Okay. All right. And how old are you? 86?
I'm now 87.
87.
I'll be 88.
You were born in 1935.
The two grandparents in Europe, they lived into their late 70s, 79, 77. That isn't too bad.
Yeah.
The J.A. Shapiro was only 70.
That's Joseph Aaron.
That's my mother's grandfather, Harry's father.
And he came from...
We did his story yesterday in Poland.
He came from Poland. So they were both from Poland.
Who's both?
Him and his wife.
Oh, sure. They lived in little
Shuttles.
shuttles.
Yeah, right. Okay.
The Schwartzes and the Shapiros were in the same town.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how she married. My grandmother married her cousin. Becky married her first cousin.
Uh-huh.
And Libby, Alana's grandfather, married. He was not a direct cousin. He's related, but not that close. Because that's all they knew were the people in their town.
Okay.
You don't know. I mean, you don't have no idea how. Even in my mother's time, when she was one of the reasons she married my father, she didn't want to go back to Middletown. She said that would have been the end of the world.
She would have had to marry her cousin and never leave.
There was a doctor there in Middletown. His name was Schwartz, too. He was in love with my mother.
Oh.
But she didn't return it.
Okay.
She would have been sort of pushed into that marriage.
Okay.
So when my father came along, he was her ticket out of Middletown.
Yeah. Wow. She jumped right on board. How soon after she met him did she marry him?
A year. She met him in the sophomore year. And of course you met people, you were fixed up always.
Right.
By other people.
Yeah. How'd she meet him?
Well, she had a friend at Radcliffe who was going with a guy who was a friend of my father's.
Okay.
And they fixed them up.
Okay.
That's how people met.
Yeah.
They didn't have bars.
Yeah.
And they certainly didn't have the computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a different world.
Yeah.
Because my mother felt there were so many girls in Middletown who were left behind.
Oh.
Because they didn't have access to meeting men.
She was like a feminist, your mom.
Yeah.
They didn't call it that back then, but...
She was only 19 when she got married.
So she met him at 18. No, 18 and a half.
She was actually, I think, just 18. She went to college at 16 and a half, so she was a sophomore.
And she graduated...
She graduated when she was 20 in 1933. She'd already been married a year.
And she was wasn't she the, what do you call it?
Well, in high school, she was the valedictorian,
Okay.
and her salutatorian was Janet Brewster, who married Edward R. You know that Edward R. Murrow.
No.
He was the greatest newscaster of World War II.
Oh, wow.
He was the most famous newscaster, and he was stationed in Britain during the war.
Uh-huh.
And we used to laugh. Janet Brewster married Edward R. Murrow, and you married Irving Flashman.
Cute. That's cute.
She went to Vassar, and my mother went to Radcliffe.
Okay. But so at Radcliffe, there wasn't any special honors.
She was a magna cum laude,
Okay.
which is very high. It's
Okay.
next to Summa.
Okay.
Summa is all A's.
Okay.
Then you have magna cum laude. You have 1 or 2 B's.
Okay.
And, but to get a magna, you have to write a thesis.
Okay.
And Muriel she didn't want to write a thesis, so she only got a cum laude.
Okay. But so Grandma wanted the thesis. She did the thesis.
She did the thesis to get it. She got a magna cum laude.
And do you know what her thesis was on?
What?
Do you know what her thesis was on? The topic?
No, I don't. She was a French major, so it probably was something in French. Muriel was a French major, too.
Okay.
Now, see, Muriel's experience was entirely different because Muriel lived with us.
Oh.
And she came to college in the middle of the Depression.
Okay.
And so...
You guys were her ticket out of Middletown. Yeah.
Yeah, but she went back to Middletown.
Okay. Interesting.
And so she was a commuter.
Mm.
But she had a much better social life than my mother did. Because all the commuter girls, they were all Jewish.
Okay.
And they all got together. And so they had, they'd have dates and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And she kept up with them, whereas my mother was more isolated.
Okay.
Because there were like only 2 Jewish girls who lived in the dormitories.
Okay. So wait, Muriel
This was the dormitory where my mother lived.
Oh, okay, wow. So Muriel and Sylvia were in this college at the same time?
Oh, no.
Oh, you're just comparing. Okay.
No. My mother was the class of 33. Muriel was the class of 39.
Oh, okay.
So Muriel came to live with us in our apartment. I was her first roommate. I was a baby in the crib. And she had the bed. And that was almost, 4 years.
Okay.
I could remember waking up, sometimes at night and seeing her studying at the desk with a little lamp.
Oh, wow. You remember that? This is where? In Boston?
This is the Brighton section of Boston.
Okay.
We had a 3rd floor apartment. My father, it was $50 a month. We had a maid, so I think $5 or $7 a week.
Okay.
So Muriel had the bedroom and I was on the side of the crib.
Where did Mom sleep? Oh, your mom was in the morning. Yeah, okay.
My mother was born. She stole Muriel's thunder. She was born the week that Muriel graduated.
All right.
You know that story.
Oh, gosh.
They all came up from Middletown for the graduation, but all they wanted to do was go to the hospital and see the baby.
Ay.
So when Muriel graduated, you see, it was very hard for women to get jobs. So she went back to Middletown and worked in the store. And fortunately, this very bright guy named Manny Hirschman, he was from New Haven, and he, with the help of his brother, he set up a plumbing supply store in Portland. And he was a Yale graduate. And he, how he met Muriel in town, and he courted her. My grandmother was so against it. She thought he was going to be poor all his life. Because he'd show up in this broken down car There's a special name for it. It was a two-seater with a rumple seat in the back. And it was very old. My grandmother was ashamed of it. But he persisted, and of course, they had a wonderful marriage. Probably the best one of the whole family.
Oh, wow.
Because he was intellectually her equal.
Yeah.
And he was a great guy.
Mm.
But unfortunately, he died of a heart attack very young, 37.
Oh, God, that's so young.
And he's Laurie's father.
Okay, he's Lori's father.
She was only 5 when he died.
Oh, man.
I mean, I know him better than she does.
Right. Wow.
So when my father proposed marriage, he made a deal with my grandfather. My grandfather they weren't thrilled that she was going to get married.
This is Harry.
College. But he said my grandfather would pay for the tuition, but my father would pay for everything else. In other words, her room and board.
Okay.
And so that was the deal.
Huh.
And with Muriel, my grandfather used to send my father, I think he paid like $40 a month for food. Because everything was very, very tight those days.
Interesting.
You know.
But did people have savings? Were they saving it away, or they literally couldn't afford?
My grandfather was, fairly well off compared to the Depression. But, still it was very, very tight. So it was, it wasn't, whatever the story, they weren't rushing to send Muriel to live in the dormitory when she could live with my mother.
Sure, of course.
To save money.
Yeah.
And Estelle came the following year. And when Muriel graduated, then Estelle came.
Okay.
And she went to Simmons.
Okay. Well, she lived with you guys too.
She lived with us too.
Okay.
And I also shared the room with her. And now I was 5.
Okay.
And Judy was a baby in the crib.
Okay.
But she stayed in my mother's and father's room.
Okay.
But Estelle, she didn't like Simmons. There was no social life.
Wait, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a 2-bedroom with the baby.
What are you saying?
There's 5 people in a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, 5 people. We had a maid in the back bedroom. You don't
The live-in maid?
Oh yeah, maids were always living.
Oh, okay.
And every apartment had a maid, what they call a maid's room. It was usually off the kitchen. But she had to use our bathroom.
Right.
She didn't have a separate bathroom.
Right.
And, then the war changed everything. Because once the war came and the men were taken away, the women would fill in their jobs in the factories and the stores.
Okay.
So that was the end of the maids.
Oh.
That was the end of it, because they could make much more money.
Yeah.
And have much more freedom.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
So that's when we'd get day help.
Okay.
That's day help.
And
most of them, they were black women.
From the islands or from the south?
From the south.
Okay.
Whereas before the war, most of the maids were white.
From Europe?
No, they were from New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont. They were the country girls who were looking for an opportunity to broaden their lives.
Oh, wow.
They couldn't make any money in the country.
Right.
She wanted to be a farmer's wife.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's such a different, lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they would get Thursdays and Sundays off.
Okay. Everybody
All the maids. That was the maid's day off.
Okay.
And so they would all go to the movies and beat each other and go out to Schraff's for lunch or something like that. And Sundays they would go to church. And
this is where now? This is in Boston?
This is in Boston.
Okay. And are you at this point, are neighborhoods integrated, or are you still like mostly Jewish neighborhoods? Jews are in the Jewish neighborhoods.
Mostly Jewish people.
Okay.
Where we lived
Okay.
in Brighton. There was still, it was either you're Jewish or Catholic in those areas.
And Jewish, not like Orthodox.
No.
Not Hasidic.
The Orthodox lived where my grandparents lived in Roxbury.
Okay.
They had an Orthodox temple, and that was the heart of the Orthodox Jew at that time in the 30s. And somewhat in Dorchester. And now because those areas now are all black. That's when Malcolm X came out of Roxbury. After the 50s. The big synagogue in Roxbury, which is called Temple Mishkan B'Pilla, they moved to Newton, because of the exodus of the Jews, and that temple became an art center for Negroes. And did you? Well, you don't have to record this.
Okay, I'll turn it off.